We joined our next guest, Rick Harrison, at the SoCal World Guitar Show to talk with him about his founding of RH Custom Guitars and to see firsthand the playable works of art that he builds for his clients. I'm Jeffrey Wolf with Adventure CEO Leadership Insights, and today we are at the SoCal World Guitar Show at the Hangar on the OC County Fairgrounds, and I'm with Rick Harrison, founder of RH Custom Guitars. Rick, thanks for talking with us today.
Oh, thanks for coming out.
And what we're going to take a look at here in just a second are some of the most amazing guitars you're ever going to see. Rick makes a custom build, hand-built custom guitars. These are one-offs. When you have one of the RH custom guitars in your hands, it is a one-of-a-kind. No one else has your guitar, just you. And these are legendary for being, don't need to change them, nothing to adjust, ready to go out of the box when they get in the hands of professionals and guitarists like yourself. Rick, how did you get started with making custom guitars?
Well, I've worked with wood all my life, and I was at a custom roadshow one time, Fender Custom Roadshow, and they had a guitar up on stage, and I knew what that guitar sold out of a guitar shop. Mm-hmm. But I wanted a nice piece of bird's eye maple neck on it. And I asked the guy, one of the master builders, I go, what would that guitar cost if I wanted this, nice piece of bird's eye maple instead of the plain maple neck?
Okay.
And he goes, well, you got to put it in through a custom shop and it'll take X amount of time. And I go, well, how much would something like that cost? And they said, well, from the custom shop, it'll be somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. And I'm thinking, it more than doubled just to have a little better piece of wood for the neck?
Right, so just to have that custom wood doubles the value of the guitar.
Well, to them it does, yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I can put out a better product for that kind of money. Mm-hmm. And that's what I've strived to do. I mean, my pieces, I call them playable pieces of art. Not only do they look good, but they play perfectly. I have a connection with these pickups that are very, very hard to get. 2 years ago, they were the talk of the NAMM show. Okay. And unless you were with this guy when he
now what's the NAMM show? Because some of our viewers, they're not familiar with that.
Music Association or whatever.
Okay.
That's where all the vendors come. It's held twice a year, once in LA and then once in Nashville. That's where for all the sellers, buyers, musicians, anybody that's tied up in the music industry. They have all types of musical instruments there for them to see. It's not open to the public.
Oh wow! So it's really an insider industry.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a friend on the East Coast, northeast part of the country, who's a musician and very, very busy in the music industry out there, whether he's playing bass for one band or guitar for another or putting on and promoting shows. Well, we had talked about him a build for him, and before we could pull the trigger on it, he suffered a stroke. So after talking with him and getting his ideas of what he liked and didn't like, I'm building this in his honor. And he even helped me name it. It's called the Paul E, after his name, Paul Englehart. And I can't wait to see this one when it's finished, completely finished, because it's going to be just a beauty. It's Zeracote on the top. It's a two-piece carved top with maple on the second. Bird's eye maple neck. It's this 5A quality bird's eye maple. With the finishes on it, you'll see all the bird's eye in there. But this will just be stunning once it's done. And once again, it will just sound perfect.
Well, and when the finish goes on, I'll be interested to see how the wood grain pops.
Right.
That's a beautiful grain.
Well, I'll show you a guitar down the line that give you an idea of what it'll look like when it's got thick gloss on it.
Okay. Rick, you were talking about what happens when people commission guitars, so they get a truly one-off custom guitar. Could you talk about that process? It's just fascinating how people have such a wide selection of imagination. You can get your own fretboard wood, pick out your wood for the body. How does that work?
Yes, somebody comes to me, they want me to build a guitar. So immediately start talking about types of woods, what it might want to look like. I'll throw in some ideas, and we get started. Like when I built a guitar for Mark Kendall, his tour guitar for Great White. He was one of the easiest guys ever. He just wanted some natural wood, so I picked out some different types of spalted, because I mean that's very creative wood. You don't have to do anything to it except put finish on it. And he finally decided on a particular piece that he liked, and then I just did my stuff for the rest of it. But some people, they want certain thicknesses of the neck at certain frets, so on and so forth. I did a bass for the original bass player for Great White, who quit the band like 2 weeks before they got signed because
Oh no.
yeah, he was tired of living in garages.
Mm-hmm.
But now he's a studio musician. He's worked with people like Johnny Hyland and a lot of the big names.
Holy cow.
Yeah, he's strictly a studio musician now, and he lives in Hawaii. So he saw Mark's guitar, and he came to me, man, will you build me a bass? I said, well, certainly. So he says, this is my bucket list bass. He had a list of everything he wanted on it. So I built this bass for him, and he just, like a kid at Christmas. He said, man, this is the best thing I've ever had. I can't believe it. It's got everything I want. I didn't have to settle for anything. He goes, you know what? If anybody wants to know about your instruments, you give them my phone number. I don't care. I'll talk to anybody about them, which you can't ask for more than that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
would you hand your phone number out to just anybody?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what happens. And so when you go to my website, the few models that you might see on it are just there so you can get an idea of the quality of what I do, because 90% of what I make, nobody really ever gets to see.
We then had a rare opportunity to see 3 guitars that Rick had built for a collector.
These 3 are all sold. Now they are bought by a collector. Now I met this collector, and he was trying to get Fender to build him a custom red Telly. And they kept putting him off and putting him off and putting him off. And he heard about me, and he approached me and said, well, can you build me one? And it's like, well, of course, that's what I do. So I said, well, let me think about it, and I'll come up with a nice design. Well, that night I had a dream of this guitar, of what it looks like with the inlay and all that stuff. And that's what happens to me. A lot of my guitars, I have dreams, and I wake up, I draw it out, I go to my office, I draw it out on paper, and then I'm immediately on the internet to try to find the wood to match what was in my dream. So this is a burl maple, and I'll put a light on it in a minute to show you that you can see it through. It's with a trans red finish, so you can see it through there. This is a Bacote fingerboard with really gnarly grain in it. Through the center, I have a spalted maple stripe with Bacote, quarter-inch Bacote strips running down the side to tie it into the fingerboard. And once again, well, that's right, this don't have a back piece to it. Yes, it does. There's the spalted covers, real wood, to match something on the front of the guitar, not plastic. So while I'm
the same from the front and the back.
Yes. So while I'm building this guitar here was at my house. This guitar was used by Mark Kendall of Great White for a documentary.
Oh, no kidding. So this actually appeared in Great White's documentary?
Yes, it's called The Metal Meltdown, and Mark signed it on the back. It was at my house, and he would come over, the fellow buying this would come over and he'd play it, and he really liked it. And he asked me, he goes, is this for sale? And it's like, once again, it's like, yeah, that's what I do. So he said, okay, I want it. So he bought that one. So when he comes back to pick this one up when it's ready, this one here, which is the same top as the Paul E,
Okay.
was sitting on the table. It was finished. The body was finished. I needed to put the electronics on it. And there's an idea of what the grain looks like on it. And that's what the Paul E will look like once it gets the shiny finish on it. Isn't that beautiful? And look at the bird's eye, 5A quality bird's eye neck. See, this is the type of stuff I'm always looking for to put into my guitars, not just plain maple, plain Indian rosewood, plain anything.
Well, the detail on the wood grains is incredible.
Yeah, that's very important to me. So this guitar was sitting on the table, getting ready to put the pickups and the hardware and all that stuff on it. And the guy looks at me and he goes, is this one sold? And I said, not yet. He looked at me and winked and said, it is now. So this collector bought all 3 of these guitars within a month. And he's thinking about a 4th. I love this guy.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's like the rock star that made the message about how he just needs your guitar to do all the different sounds.
Right.
To have an investor buy 3 and now be talking about a 4th, it's the best possible advertising.
Yes, and this collector that bought my guitars, he already has over 100.
Rick's guitars are also popular with rock stars. He shared the story of how Mark Kendall from Great White became one of Rick's biggest fans.
Mark Kendall of Great White. I mean, this guy's been a rock and roller forever.
Yeah.
He tried my guitars. I met him one day in a pool hall. He plays pool.
Now, you're also a very accomplished pool player, I understand.
I'm not bad. But don't tell anybody. But
tournament level
oh yes,
expert.
Yes. In fact, I just got back from Vegas from a national tournament. But I approached him and I said, hey, this is what I do. You know, you're an old-time rock and roller. How about if you have some time, sit down and play a couple of my guitars and tell me what you think. He said, sure. He played 2 of my instruments. He says, I've got to have one for tour. He said, these are the best guitars I have ever played. Everything I need out of them, they're there. And so,
what a huge endorsement.
Yeah, and he's been playing it for 4 years.
For 4 years. 4 years. And that's the only guitar that he used?
The only guitar. They just came out with a new CD, and the big hit off the CD is called Big Time. So
okay.
Check it out.
So on Big Time, it showcases the sound of that guitar.
Right. But everybody has been contacting him, you know, well, what guitar did you use for this song, and what guitar did you use for that song? Mm-hmm. So after a period of time, he came out with a statement. He said, for all of you that want to know all the different instruments I used on this CD, he said, to be honest with you, about 95% of everything used on this CD I did with my RH Custom, because it does everything I want it to do.
That's good.
Yeah, you can't get any better than that.
No, I can't. To have someone that enjoys your product or service that much, right, that they make such a strong statement, that's great.
Yeah. This one here is the Barnyard Boy that we've been talking about. It's a 2-piece carved top. I have maple on the second layer and the barnyard wood on the top layer. And as you can see, I left all the little nooks and crannies in there. It's really a neat effect. Now, you can spend a lot of money on a custom guitar from some of these other builders, and their pickup rings are plastic. Mine are wood. The plates on the back will be plastic. Mine are wood to match something on the front part of the guitar. Once again, as custom as possible.
And I've seen that before. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
100% wood as opposed to
plastic.
Plastic.
Right.
Now, does that make a difference in the sound as well?
Not a whole lot, because it's not enough of it, but it makes a difference in the quality for the price you're paying. That's the way I see it.
There is something that makes a huge difference in the sound and provides Rick a competitive advantage.
And so unless you were with this guy making these pickups from the beginning, it's hard to get because it's only one guy and he can't produce them fast enough for everybody. And luckily, sure, I've got a connection to get them. Mm-hmm. On my website, this guitar here is demonstrated. And we play the same song over and over again, but we just changed the pickup configuration to show all the different tones you can get out of my guitars. You can play everything from jazz to hard rock to country without switching the guitars.
So, yeah, I always wondered about that because you see a lot of bands and professionals, they always have a line of guitars out on stage. Right. So that's why they do that, to get a different
sound. Yes, yes. I have a fellow by the name of Jamie Dupree playing my guitars. He's a guy up in Canada. He's real big known in the YouTube fame. He's made so many different songs that he's done that's had millions of shares or whatever. He does a video talking about my guitar and demonstrates also, and he's on my website.
As we began wrapping up, our conversation turned to Rick's journey as an entrepreneur and really the fun that he has along the way. And having joined what you do, I mean, that's really important as entrepreneurs. It's easy in the grind of running a business, building a business, to lose that, why did we get started?
Right.
And that enjoyment of what we're doing.
Right. But it's such a thrill to me to see somebody that gets the guitar and they play it for the first time. They see it for the first time. Well, like the collector on this red one here. When I told him to come over and take a look at it, I hadn't put the hardware on it yet, but the finish was done so he could see the wood. I had this guitar here, the Purple Passion. Okay. And that was in the same position. Well, see, I'd already talked to him about that one, and so he had an idea of what it was going to look like. But when I invited him over, and I had a camera set up, and I filmed this whole thing, I brought him over, and I had that one laying on the table, which is completely different. And I go, well, there it is. How does it look? And you could see the disappointment in his face because he could remember what I showed him in the drawing, you know. Right. And but he's trying not to let me know he's disappointed because he thinks it's his guitar.
And you're just having some fun with it.
Oh yeah, my wife and I, we are just dying. And so he goes, well, yeah, this is really nice, but it just seems different for some reason. And so we started laughing, and I brought that one out, and then you could really see the look on his face. It's like, bing, okay.
So what? Another question that I'd like to ask is, since you started making custom guitars, both from the creative process, but also from the business side of it, what have you learned that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
How could I put this? How fickle people are.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you have no idea the people that come to me, and we work out every detail down to the finest little nook and cranny. And then when it comes time for the deposit, it's like, okay, well, I'll get back to you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we go through the process of picking out the wood, the whole 9 yards, because when I commission a guitar, once everything is set, and locked in on paper, what you want, this, that, and the other, I get a deposit. And once I get a deposit and start on that guitar, the deposit's non-refundable. Mm-hmm. And I run into that all the time.
Well, that's the moment of truth right there.
Yes. I mean, I spend more time probably talking to people and working out the details than I actually do building the guitars. I had a guy one time come in. He gave me a deposit for a guitar. We started it, built it. It was ready for him to pick up. He came in, he saw another guitar that I was working on that was twice the price of what he got.
Oh my gosh.
He liked it, fell in love with it, and says, I want that one instead. I go, what do you mean instead? I said, you've already put a deposit on that one. He said, keep it. I want that one. And he bought that one.
Really?
Yes.
And it was twice the price?
As much as the one that he'd put a deposit on.
Wow.
Yeah. That's like, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because see, like this one here, everybody may not like that particular model.
Yes.
So once I build something for a person, his personal taste and so on and so forth, I may have that guitar forever if he doesn't buy it. So that's why the deposit is
non-refundable. Exactly. I hadn't thought about that, because it is truly a custom guitar for that person, for their taste, the look that they want. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
wow.
Eventually one day it might sell, but there's no guarantee that it would. So that's why I say that there's once I start it, the deposit's non-refundable.
Yes. Rick did share one last set of special guitars done in conjunction with legendary craftsman George Amiche, formerly of Fender.
Okay, this is the Cowboy that I was talking about. Now you see the rope binding going around the guitar, the F-hole and the headstock that I was talking about. You can hit that with a magnifying glass and not see a mistake anywhere, along with the cactus flower at the bottom. And the hand tool leather to go along with it, kind of like the saddle, the leather in the saddle to complement the Western appeal. This is a list of all the guys that George has done work for through the years, like, let's see here, Eric Clapton, John Strait, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, Bob Dylan, just Ernie Isley, just a number of people that he's done work for through the years. He's very well known, very well known. This one here is called the Floral Perfection because of all the flowers and everything in it. And in the vein, you can see the veins in the leaves. And once again, he did this with an X-Acto knife. Very pretty. But not only are these guitars beautiful, but they still, just like all my others, they play and sound wonderful. They're not just lookers. Although these are probably more for a collector, because you wouldn't want to put one of these up on stage and risk somebody stealing it. And then here's the final one, the medieval one. Medieval times with the lion and the torch, and it's all hand carved. And then he went back and gold and silver leafed everything. Just beautiful work, just very small, intricate cuts and designs that he did with an X-Acto knife. George Amiche.
Well, Rick, I really appreciate your time. Viewers, you really want to go to Rick's website, because we just had enough time to barely scratch the surface on the guitars, and there's more examples, and you can hear the sound from the guitar as well.
Yes.
So I really appreciate your time. Thanks for being with us. And your website is
rhcustomguitars.com.
rhcustomguitars.com. Rick,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much.
Well, thank you, sir.
Entrepreneurs, thanks for being with us today. We're having an adventure. How about you? Thank you for joining us on Adventure CEO Leadership Insights. I'm glad you're part of the journey. I'm glad you're a part of the conversation, and look forward to having you with us in the conversation on our next episode. By the way, if you have any comments, suggestions, or even a guest you'd like to have on the show in the future, send us an email at fan@adventureceo.tv. Again, that's fan, F-A-N, at adventureceo.tv. Until then, we're having an adventure. How about you?